Italian Wine Podcast, a Wine2wine Business Forum 2021 media partner, is proud to present a series of sessions highlighting the key themes and ideas from the two-day event held on October the 18th and 19th, 2021. This hybrid edition of the Business Forum was jam-packed with the most informed speakers discussing some of the hottest topics in the wine industry today. For more information, please visit wine2wine.net and tune in every Thursday at 2 p.m. Central European Time for more episodes recorded during this latest edition of Wine2wine Business Forum.
Hello and welcome to this session on wine and sustainability and how important it is to get onto the journey of sustainability. I'm Nick Breeze from Secret Sommelier, and I'm with Marta Mendonca from the Porto Protocol, Michele Manelli from Equalitas, who's the Vice President of Equalitas, and Riccardo Pasqua here in Verona from Pasqua Wines. And the objective really is to have three different lenses. One is the global perspective, which Marta provides from the Porto Protocol. The second is more of the national in Italy with Equalitas and the journey of sustainability here, and what Riccardo is doing with Pasqua Wines on that journey. So I'm going to start by asking Marta. Marta, much of what Porto Protocol does is about bringing expert knowledge to the fore across the whole industry. What have you observed regarding the momentum shift towards having robust sustainability credentials, starting with the producer but moving through the industry?
Hi, Nick. Good morning to all. And first of all, I'm very grateful for this opportunity for Porto Protocol. So moving on to your question, I think it's amazing and it's a very good thing, the shift we get towards sustainability. And what is amazing is that happens throughout pandemic. Suddenly, if we were having this conversation a year ago or a year and a half ago, the need to go into a sustainable approach to your business would not be as dense as it is right now. So there is indeed a shift, and the shift comes from everywhere. It starts with the consumer, because at the end of the day, that's what will make. We are all consumers at the end. We are all people, first of all, and we're all consumers. And there is a shift, and there are studies proving that. There is a shift for consumers looking for more sustainable products, looking to how the products they consume are produced. And that goes to wine as well. So there is indeed a shift to wines that are produced sustainably. And then before I go into producers, let me go into retailers as well, because retailers are starting to force their producers, so to speak, to prove their sustainability credentials. So we have retailers on one side, and we have, for example, the Scandinavian markets being really the leaders in this sustainability policy search. And then we have consumers as well. And then we go to producers. And when we speak about producers, we are lucky enough as Porto Protocol to meet absolutely amazing people, and we meet champions. So when companies come to us, that's because no matter what stage they are in terms of sustainability, that means they want to either start or they want to share, and they feel the need of working together with other companies. So what we see is producers understanding that there is a new way of approaching their business. There's a new way of producing wine to work. On one hand, because it's important that if we're talking about sustainability, we always bear in mind that we're looking into the social, the economic, and the environmental dimension. So what we see is this shift. It's not absolutely general, but it's very strong, of producers wanting to work more hand in hand with nature in terms of respecting it more. And that goes to that happens in various ways. It happens, for example, in lightening their the weight of their bottle, because it is in fact the aspect that promotes the most the carbon footprint of wine. It goes into promoting more biodiversity and using less pesticides and herbicides, for example. And then we go to the social part, and there is and retailers do force that a lot in the need to because this is a very fragile business when we think of the whole value chain. We're talking about agriculture. So there is a shift in the way human resources, people are managed as well. And of course, there's always a need for a business to exist. We can never forget the economic part, but there is a sense of building balance within this value chain and within these three dimensions. So yes, from wherever you look, there is a force bringing sustainability to the table and to the mindset of producers, retailers, consumers, everything.
Okay. And often when we talk about sustainability as a broad term, it's very loosely used and can be quite intangible to those we're trying to convince to go on a sort of journey. And a question for Michela: when you look at the work that Equalitas does across Italy in certification and auditing, etc., how do you summarize the absolute benefit in terms of value that is coming back to the producer?
Well, I think good morning, first of all, and thank you. The great job that we have achieved has been to create a guideline that supports the producer to in their investment towards sustainability, because you need to have a framework in which to move parameters to measure what you're doing.
As Michela's phrased enough, I'm going to go straight to Riccardo, who's with Pasqua Wines, is on this journey now. And Riccardo, you've been on the sustainability transition process. Can you give us an example of one of the biggest challenges that you faced? And also, are there unforeseen benefits that you can give examples of?
Well, thank you, Nick. First of all, good morning, everyone. Great pleasure to be in this round table. And thank you for your question. In our small experience, because I have to say we started this process a few years ago, so we are learning every day. The biggest challenge has been and still is education. So really being able to deploy this change of culture throughout all the layers of the organization has been a huge challenge, from the agronomic side all the way to, the marketing department, convincing them not to print a brochure, instead making it digital, or, when you speak with the older generation management, and try to convince them that a lightweight glass is maybe not as sexy as a heavy one in the short term, but along the way we will get definitely more benefits. That has been definitely the biggest challenge, and on an everyday basis, let's say. And the second challenge, which I think links very quickly with what Equalitas does in Italy, and with the fact that we will be soon certified by Equalitas. We are in the making of the certification, is the culture of monitoring. So the big change is to keep track of it, so print and compile a sustainability report every year that allows you to keep tracking of what you're doing, keep tracking of how much you're investing, and most importantly, sets targets for the future.
Okay. And you mentioned bottle weight, which comes up quite a lot, and Marta mentioned it as well. And these are to do with associations of value with consumers as much as anything else. But Pasqua, for example, has a strong association with art, which is another way that you can add that layer of desirability to your brand by these kinds of different associations.
Absolutely. I mean, you were talking about unforeseen advantages, and definitely, I mean, what we're doing and what Porto Protocol is doing and what Equalitas is doing to help wineries and companies like ours is strategic for for the future reputation. So indeed, I mean, it's a strong message.
Let's see if we can expose to many aspects of the industry. And I wanted to ask, what's the big challenge that you see facing the whole industry, and what is the pathway to overcoming it?
Well, Nick, I think first of all, it's the biggest challenge, which is the one we work with the most, is climate change. And it's not a question of understanding that the industry is at stake, but it's the species. I think first of all, before answering directly to your question, I think we all must understand that taking care of the environment, of protecting our businesses, our people, our civilization, is about self-care. It's not a question of the producer the retailer. It's not a trend. It's really a question of survival. And I think each of us must understand that. Now, in regards to the industry itself, besides the industry itself being at stake, you can see, for example, I think the main challenge that we hear the most is about water, the lack of water. I just recently, we were talking to a producer in the US, for example, in Napa and Sonoma, actually, I think, and he was mentioning what he had to do to have water to irrigate his vineyards, for example. So that's a huge challenge we face, again, not only as an industry and as a species. And another thing is if we think that we are dependent on climate as an industry, the fact that, for example, harvest starts earlier and earlier each year, and I mean, there's probably no producer that can deny this. So thinking and I think something that happens in Italy, that happens in many countries, is that wine producers have been around for generations. So it's very natural for them to think for their business to be saved for the generations to come. And so the fact that this harvest, that some grapes will not be adapted anymore, some as the planet gets warmer, so they need to think what will happen in many years' time, where if the place where they have the terroir, where they have their own vineyards, if they'll be able to grow grapes there and therefore produce wine. So many challenges arise, but water is by far the biggest challenge they face.
Okay, and you started at the beginning by talking about climate generally and the values that we're all going to face it, and we are facing it. Many people are, but there's an articulation issue. So consumers are learning how to articulate their own values and what they want, and at the same time, producers are learning, or the industry is learning to articulate how it is addressing it. And it's at very early stages, it seems, right across the board. So coming back to the theme of this talk, how important it is to get on the journey and learn to just talk about it and articulate it is an important step, I think. And I want to go back to Riccardo, because one thing about the wine industry and one thing about climate change is that they both require a long-term view. And I wanted to ask you, what are the main considerations now as you look at your business over the next few decades? And how much does sustainability or climate resilience, going on what Marta just said, feed into those considerations?
I mean, from every angle, from a production standpoint, from a reputation standpoint, from a human resources standpoint, I mean, it's a very large question, but I think, in one word, we need to be ambitious, no? As a system, European community needs to give, our policymakers need to give ambitious targets for the future, and they need to give incentives to achieve that. Maybe some tax incentive, for example, and as well as they have to give awards to the virtues examples for sure. But yeah, I mean, and so I think they can help us pushing the envelope, and I think, for example, I know that European community is issuing a new rule where companies over 40 million euros revenue by 2024 they will need to include in their books sustainability report, and this new rule brings companies that they already have this obligation from 6,000 companies to almost 50,000 companies. So, the culture of monitoring is already happening, and this is a great thing, I think. So it's part of the ambitious plan, and last consideration I want to add is that the performances of a company like ours are made by the people, and people is everything, and I think if we are not taking in consideration sustainability, environmental impact in our equation, we will not be able to attract new talents to our organization. That will be a disaster. No? So the new generation, of course, the new generations will be more and more sensible to that. So that's another key part in my vision of this table.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about, well, the question I asked you before was how you see it from a national perspective in terms of the biggest challenges in this sustainability field facing producers in going forward, and what's the pathway to overcome it?
Well, there are three main aspects, I would say. Of course, it's very complex. Anything can be a challenge, any action, any side of your process and product. But let's say that environmentally, in the farming, there still is a big challenge toward the use of energy for feeding tractors, and also the production of whatever we use to fertilize and to defend the plants from diseases. So let's say the pest management, let's call it this way if you want, it's always
Are you enjoying this podcast? There is so much more high-quality wine content available from Mama Jumbo Shrimp. Check out our new wine study maps or books on Italian wine, including Italian Wine Unplugged, and much, much more. Just visit our website, mamajumboshrimp.com. Now, back to the show.
I'm going to ask Marta. Marta, how much is true sustainability and adaptation to a worsening climate becoming an integral part of the story of wine? Because we talk about legacy of wine going back thousands of years, and we're reaching one of the big sort of challenges, I think, in our current story. So how much is true sustainability and adaptation becoming an integral part of the story today? You've already touched on it, but I just wanted to see how, with all the people that you speak to with the Porto Protocol, how do you see that moving sideways throughout the whole conversation around that?
As I said, Nick, we are lucky enough to speak to very committed people, even if they are starting their journey, or if they're way beyond the others, even if they're champions. But I think the commitment to sustainability comes from everywhere. In some cases, there is no need to adapt to sustainability. Sometimes it's just a question of organizing it, so to speak, because some companies are already truly sustainable. They just don't call it that way. It's just a term that makes every sense, that suddenly became part of everyone's language, everyone's day-to-day conversations. But again, if you want to have your business for your grandchildren, that requires a planet in this case, and that requires also thinking again of the social and economic dimension. That means that you have to take care of the people that work with you. It's probably the simplest way to talk about sustainability in a social terms, and you want to make sure that the business is viable. So in many companies, that is a way of being in the business. It didn't require any certification or any particular new trend, so to speak, because it's way more than a trend. So in many cases, it's the real deal. It's just a question of organizing, and suddenly you have to communicate it, because retailer, where you want to place your bottles is asking you for you to prove that you are sustainable. On the other hand, we do speak to companies that suddenly even if they do have sustainability practices, even if they take care of the people they work with, even if they do work in a more environmentally sustainable way, they have to do more, and many are being obliged, so to speak, by retailers. So we see both. Okay, so we see companies that are really committed, and they're so happy to have other companies to speak with, which is why we are a forum of for a network and for sharing. So there are many committed companies, and there are companies that are suddenly waking up and saying, look, we have to change something because we're being asked, otherwise we will not be able to place our products in certain places, and because consumers are demanding. So we see it all, but I must say we are lucky enough to see very, very committed people.
Okay, and it's a shame actually that we've lost Michele.
Yes, because he has a lot to share. Yeah,
he's an enormous insight from Equalitas. So I'm going to ask Riccardo to try and plug some of those gaps in terms of, can you talk a little bit about on your journey, how have you interacted with Equalitas and what have they given you which adds to your credentials as a sustainability business? Because one thing we want to always avoid is the idea of greenwash, is that we're saying we're doing something but we're not doing it. Can you talk a bit about that?
Exactly. No, yeah. In fact, as I said, we want to work with a very solid and serious partner, and Equalitas is absolutely the perfect partner to start the journey. And I have to say, we started from a very solid base, because we already, since many years, we were pursuing energy saving, water saving, and we converted some of our vineyards. And again, Equalitas put all that in order, and will allow us to start tracking what we're doing. So, as I said, we will start from this year to put in our books a sustainability report, which is going to include the all aspects of the subject, including, of course, the social side of it. Where I think Pasqua is quite innovative. We have different forms of welfare, and some quite innovative for our industry and our size, let's say. For example, this 2020, we started an amazing program introducing a mental coach in our organization, like, with athletes. That was a quite innovative program, and that is going to be part of the social side of the report. And so, yeah, I mean, we found an amazing partner that challenged us to achieve and check out all the requirements. We started from a good base, but again, as I said before, we need to be ambitious, no? And Equalitas is definitely the right partner to kick it off, to try to achieve those ambitions, and again, having a 40 pages report every year where you track how much you did and how much you will do, and a report that will be used to analyze performance, exactly like you do with the financial performance. I think is a very strong tool of transparency, and
so in a way,
to have it.
What you're saying is that you were doing a lot of things sustainably, adapting to certain things and implementing new procedures, that Equalitas gave you a kind of auditing process that allowed you to add a layer of external accreditation. And how does that help you engage with sort of areas of the markets. I know that Scandinavia and Canada are imposing quite strict terms or conditions on what they want from producers. Can you talk a bit about how you interacted with markets on this issue?
Sure. Well, I mean, for sure, some markets more than others, and you're absolutely right. The monopolies, for example, Scandinavia in premise, they're very sensible on that. But I really do believe that the real return in terms of performances of business is intangible, is reputational, is the reputation of your brand, of your organization, that down the line will bring the majority of business sense, so to speak. And I have to say, going to the everyday work, besides the monopoly markets, I'm experiencing more and more from also countries that you wouldn't expect, like China, for example. We have 2 companies in China, and they are managed by millennials, young managers. Of course, the new generations there, like here, are much more conscious and sensible, and we are starting to have a lot of conversation about it there, and our people there really believe that is again the reputational side of it is going to be very strong in the years to come.
Okay, I expect that you talk about China, Scandinavia, and it'll spread. It will become ubiquitous there. And Marta, you've interacted with quite a few of the different market areas around the world. Can you just give a little overview of what you're seeing in terms of the demands that are being put on producers if they want to sell into certain markets on sustainability?
Yes, the most radical thing we've realized is that some companies cannot even apply to certain tenders if they don't. When I mean tenders, I think that's the word. You cannot even apply to have your product in a certain retailer, for example, if you don't have, for example, a national sustainability certification such as Equalitas, for example. That's the most radical. And we've seen, and you mentioned, and I had mentioned before, certain markets such as the Scandinavian markets, not only the Canadian, but you see it coming from various places. For example, in the UK, different retailers are becoming more and more strict with what they ask from their suppliers, from human rights to making sure that there is a basic human respect for the people that work with you, especially because being an agricultural sector, we know that we suffer from very precarious handwork. From environmentally, for example, in terms of packaging, I can tell you that Alko, just to give you an example, the Finnish monopoly has extremely strict targets, and in 9 years, that is until 2030, to reduce, I don't know the number by heart, but to reduce the weight of its carbon footprint in terms of packaging in something like 50%. So this will definitely affect everyone that works with these monopolies. And so we can see that trend being very, very strong and requiring a lot of changes from producers in general.
Okay, and we've got a question from someone in the audience from Leica. Has there been an initiative to start educating viticulturists about the awareness, or is it mostly done individually by private company initiatives? So we'll start with Riccardo, your experience. How did you start actually pragmatically doing things? Were you guided? How are you guided?
Well, by our vision, I have to say. I mean, we did it privately, meaning that we had the opportunity to hire some consultant helping us understanding what to do in the vineyards. I give you a straight example. We have a project called Brasa Querta, is a natural wine, is in Valpolicella. In order to do that, we hired agronomist / winemaker from Piedmont called Lorenzo Corino, which make wines that way since 40 years. And since that experience, we learned a lot. We got a lot of interesting tips from him, and that was, let's say, the kicker to start a process of education for our technical team, and it was, I think, also a great experience for the whole organization, including also the communication side of it, where we once we launched it, there was a very interesting debate, a very interesting ping pong, let's say, between journalists saying how Pasqua, such a big house, can do a natural wine. Aren't they not too big to do that? Another journalist answered, no, it's because they are a big winery, that they have the responsibility to invest, to experiment, to push the envelope, to try to work with the experts like Lorenzo and start this sort of project. So it was very interesting. No, it was back 3 years ago, but I think we learned a lot from that experience, and I could say that was the kicker on the educational side and the big inspiration.
Okay, and Marta, same question really, because obviously people can join your forum because you're sharing a lot of information and bringing people in. What are the pragmatic steps when a producer comes to this and they want to do something, but they don't know what it is they're going to do next?
Well, the pragmatic step is that we have a conversation with each of our members and try to understand first what they do already and what are their challenges. And within what we are, which is the platform of solutions, so by answering directly to Jose Pablo that asked the question, you can come to us, because that's exactly what we are building. It's on one hand a platform of solutions that really becomes a network of people, and there's nothing like sharing. We cannot, because we cannot respond to this together on our own, is by sharing and learning with other people. So you come to us, you send us an email, sign our letter of principles, and it really starts with the conversation and trying to see where are the solutions that can help you in your, what we call your climate path, your climate journey. So that's the first pragmatic step, just get in touch with us. Now, and then in terms where can an individual or a company find information, really from our website, from our climate talks that are webinars that gather producers from around the world, producers or other players in the wine value chain, and that address specific topics that have to do with wine in a changing climate. There you can find a lot of information. Just to give you an example, and taking this opportunity to talk about one of the challenges that producers are facing, which are extreme weather events and fires, most of all. I mean, fires, frosts, you name it. And that has led many producers to really wake up to the challenge of climate. For example, we have a climate talk that is exactly to do with extreme weather events, where you have people from Australia that, as you recall, faced really extreme fires in 2019, and then someone from Napa that faced again really extreme fires in 2020, and then someone from South Africa that faced extremely water scarcity, and have these people learn from each other. And so come to us if you want. It's a free platform, so it's not like I'm doing free advertising, if I may say. But it's us learning with others, because we can only do this together. So let's learn together, let's share together. It's a way of saving time and money and resources. There's no need to reinvent the wheel because there are so many solutions out there. And hopefully we're building them as we go.
At what point, and it's a shame again, I mean, Michele is here, but we can't seem to hear him, so he can hear us. But I was wondering at what point you actually approach the certification body, because obviously you start investing as a producer, you're on the journey, but you can't get certified because you've got to go through the process. And that could take, I don't know, how long does it take? If you can answer, but it's how do you start telling that story along the way? Because you're making efforts, you're aligning your values with the producer and with the consumers. So that story itself has value, but it's not just about the final certification; it's about the journey. Can you talk about how long it takes when you bring in the certification body?
Well, I mean, it's a project that, as you can imagine, moves a lot of part of the organization. So we started the whole process approximately 3 years ago, and from there we started the auditing basically a year ago, and we will be able to finish the first cycle of auditing that will allow us to get the certification within this year. So how we communicate to the customers. So we got several projects along the way from different angles. As I was saying on the previous question, the kicker was this project in the natural wine, and then on winemaking side, we launched 2 weeks ago in Milan during Milano Wine Week a new project called Cascina San Vincenzo. Is a vineyard here in the eastern Valpolicella that has been since 10 years in our stables, but we never bottled it as a project. And this vineyard that has been planted 20 years ago has been always grown in an organic way. So that's another effort under the Pasqua umbrella. And the third big project on the agro side is Cecilia Beretta project, where we will convert within 2023 the core items of Cecilia Beretta, which is a winery inside the winery. Is one of our strategic brand, which is distributed all over the world. And that's, let's say, on the winemaking side. On the let's say terroir side, on the territory, on the community side, we did some amazing projects, and I reconnect to your art wine question before. We did in 2018 this project called Talent Never Tasted Better, where Pasqua acted as a mentor to, at first, local talents, helping them achieving their dreams, finish their projects. For example, the first one was a Veronese ballerina, a Veronese dancer, the only Italian accepted to Juilliard School. We helped her with the tuition in the Juilliard School so that she could finish, and she did a few months ago. And she became, together with other two Veronese, the face of our communication platform. So from that intuition, from that concept, we stretched out towards other Italian artists and talents, and then to international artists and talent, different disciplines, different arts. Some of them made some labels for us, others made some piece of art that fed our communication platform, and we're all young, emerging, so we were able to help them getting noticed, grow. So that was started from our little community and then became larger, ending up with the artistic installation, which is open to the public until today, sorry. And then we did another beautiful project with the Fondazione Arena, 67 columns. It's a foundation that supports the cultural arena di Verona. So yeah, I mean, we deploy the message on a social side through those projects.
Okay, so creativity again, thinking laterally about your identity and how you interact with the social side is a very important part. Marta, there's one more area which I know you've covered with the Porto Protocol, and it's almost going one step further on the sustainability side, is regenerative agriculture or viticulture. Can you talk a little bit about how that's fitting into this equation at the moment, or from your perspective?
Yes, I think that's actually where we've met more amazing people. I think we can call it a trend in one way. One thing that is important in regards to regenerative viticulture is that the concept needs to be clarified. It's like sustainability as a word. It became part of everything we say, and suddenly everything is regenerative. And so, yes, the type of viticulture that works more in hand with nature, that is less interventive, let's say, it's definitely becoming one of the trends to be able to deal with climate change, in the sense that it focuses on soils, and soils we know better than any other industry. Our soils are important to wine and to the wines we produce. So it's basically looking at soil as a means of sink, because soils are a carbon sink, and therefore to take care of soil in a way that can really boost its potential to capture carbon in the most efficient possible way. And we're looking at a regenerative approach, or a regenerative transition coming from everywhere in the world. But the concepts need to be clarified to make sure that when we're talking about a regenerative viticulture, we know what we are talking about. Otherwise, it will just become another very common word that we don't even know what we're talking about.
Okay, we've got about 1 minute left. So I think the regenerative side is almost where this is kind of heading, because it builds resilience and everything else. And Riccardo, just to end, quick one message to our producers who are really considering starting this journey or needing more information. What would be your main advice?
Well, I don't give advice. I think I can give a message. I mean, I think, as I was saying before, we need to be ambitious. We need to be brave. I think we need to pretend from policymakers, from the European community, incentives to accelerate this process. But as the title of this table, action, not perfection. Let's kick it off. Let's get in started and be ambitious, not be scared, because I'm absolutely convinced that down the road is gonna make a lot of sense on every angle. So my key word is ambition and courage.
Okay, very good. And our time's up, so we're going to say goodbye. And Riccardo, if you can say goodbye as well. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Marta. Thank you, Riccardo.
Thank you.
Michele. Thank you, Marta.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Michele. Ciao. Bye.
Ciao.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, cin cin. guys. I'm Joy Livingston, and I am the producer of the Italian Wine Podcast. Thank you for listening. We are the only wine podcast that has been doing a daily show since the pandemic began. This is a labor of love, and we are committed to bringing you free content every day. Of course, this takes time and effort, not to mention the cost of equipment, production, and editing. We would be grateful for your donations, suggestions, requests, and ideas. For more information on how to get in touch, go to ItalianWinePodcast.com.